politics, maybe.
Oh God.
How Kentucky is much more important to us than a bunch of ambiguous national policy.
Well, I think Kentucky is objectively more important. I mean, because climate change is real, and nobody's stopping it. It's beyond the ability of the democracy to face. Like we've developed to the point where we can complain about it and possibly even perceive it, but democratically you can't deal with. A democracy only deals with problems after they become so big that everybody notices them. It's far too late. So the oceans are going to rise. It's not going to kill off humanity. It is going to kill off biodiversity, but the oceans are going to rise, and Kentucky will be fine. But Florida, New York,
Well, I mean, I would make the argument that Kentucky wouldn't be fine. Well, they might be fine, but not relative to what we have now as normalcy. Right now we already see the shifting weather patterns. I mean, how long has it been since we've had a good snow?
Yeah.
And instead of having
the rain's washing out the hollers, which is really sad. I didn't see that coming.
Wolfe County has flooded twice.
Yeah.
In the last year, and Wolfe County had flooded one other time in my entire life.
Yeah, the ground is super saturated. Really? Huh. I didn't know it was all that common. Uncommon.
Yeah, well, Wolfe County, we are situated right on top of a hill. So Breathitt County, it drains one way because they're lower than us, and then Powell County, it drains the other way. And Powell County always gets the worst of it. But we're lucky.
Of the rain or of the drainage?
Of the drainage and the flood. Because Powell County, if somebody cries too much, Powell County floods.
Yeah, they really need to get up out of that valley. It's just too flat and it's just too wet. Yeah, so they figure that global warming is going to raise global cloud volume about 5%, and that means rains are 5% heavier, last 5% longer. And I was not expecting it to be a disaster in Eastern Kentucky. I thought Eastern Kentucky would be able to handle that, but
I mean, we just had Heartland flood.
Yeah.
And half of Eastern Kentucky was underwater there for a couple days.
Yeah.
And now everybody's just kind of thrown their hands up and said, "Oh, well, it's just Eastern Kentucky."
Yeah, I guess they should move to the ridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one thing about Eastern Kentucky that just gets under my skin is that people just kind of up and forget. Like whenever we pulled the headline for the hailstorm and the tornado in West Liberty, right in Morgan County.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that's one of the few times I saw help come to Eastern Kentucky, the help that we needed.
Yeah, why did the West Liberty tornado catch people's attention?
But it was so disastrous. I mean, that West Liberty was completely demolished. I mean, that main strip from the church all the way out to the funeral home was just gone.
That was the year that Joplin, Missouri got hit too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so.
Something interesting is one of my good old boy Kentucky friends told me the last time he remembers a wet, warm winter like this was 1974, right before the tornado outbreak. And he said that in April of 1974, there were just like he said, the sky turned green. I know, I sort of want to see that, but my house doesn't have a basement, so maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. When the tornado and stuff came through, my house didn't have a basement, so we had to go out in the hailstorm and drive over the hill to my aunt's house, who had a basement. And so here we were trying to get our family, because the hail wasn't that bad at that time. It was small. Like it hurt when it hit you, but it wasn't as devastating because Wolfe County got hit with a lot of hail damage rather than West Liberty just got demolished with a tornado. And Wolfe County got hit with a lot of hail damage, so it was. There are still people who haven't had their houses fixed yet from that, either because they can't afford it or the insurance companies are dragging them along, and it took a lot of people a long time to get back to normalcy.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, I was out of school. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, I think it was a little over 3 weeks. I didn't have electricity for 2.5 weeks.
Really?
At my house.
Wow. Yep. I had no idea.
And shoot, my first cousin works at the electric company.
Yeah.
So.
No, I lived 2 counties over and had absolutely no idea it was that bad.
Yeah, it was rough, and they did get a lot of FEMA help. There was, and but I mean, it wouldn't have been enough without the community, because that's one good thing about Eastern Kentucky, and specifically Morgan and Wolf and Johnson. It's everybody will band together, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of Appalachian hillbillies.
Yeah, you have to.
It's not Democrat, Republican, Christian or Jewish or Muslim. It's your neighbor. And
no, I mean, if you ever get the impression that the rest of America doesn't care, you're absolutely right. They don't at all.
Oh yeah. I think the Atlantic put out an article that was like, Eastern Kentucky is underwater and nobody's looking.
Yeah, Silas House wrote that. Yeah, I heard it was a good article.
And I mean, the thing about, and I think we started out at that and we've come full circle now.
Yeah.
But like all of that floodwater, it's just, I mean, that's pretty much just sewage. And because I mean, but you've got to think most of the people in Kentucky are either straight popping, or they're on an inefficient sewer system, and it's easily overwhelmed because there's not that many people.
It just blows my mind that you're at the top of the ridge. I mean, you're at the top of the ridge there. There's nothing up above you.
Yeah. So
enough water comes from the sky to cause these horrific problems. It just boggles my mind how much rain is in rain. I guess that's the problem I'm having the thing I'm having a problem dealing with here is, like, when you're in the middle of Wolf County, if you go up to the ridge, there is nothing higher than you.
Yeah.
I
mean, I can stand at my house. I can stand on the top of the hill and see the hilltops all around me, and everything's below.
Yeah.
And I think that's another statement for climate change. I mean, shoot, even the mountains are flooding.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, I mean,
that's a scary thing.
No, that's something that I had not taken seriously. But you're right. It's true. The mountains are flooding. That is. I had not seen that coming. I did see Florida drowning. I didn't see the mountains catching that much water. I just didn't think it through. So yeah, people are going to have to figure out new ways to live. You just can't live in the bottoms anymore. Like everybody in Powell County. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I love Stanton. It's one of my favorite little towns anywhere.
I love Stanton.
Yeah, but those people are going to have to pick up, and they're either going to have to put their houses on stilts, or they're going to have to move a few feet up the hill. Like, there's no two way. You can't live in water like that for your entire life. It gets moldy. Yeah. You know. I mean, thank God we don't have problems like Houston, where we have really awful developers building, you know.
Yeah, well, they're doing an okay job with messing up Lexington and Louisville, I guess.
They sure are. Is it growing out there? Are like people trying to build new houses or new subdivisions?
I think the last statistic I looked at, Eastern Kentucky is projected to lose 10% of its population by 2025.
Really? Yeah, I can see it.
I mean, that may be a little bit more existential than what your question started out with, but I don't think we're not going to keep people in Eastern Kentucky if we keep driving them away. Okay,
so what can the Democratic Party do about this?
Well, I think the first thing for the Democratic Party is to take in a deep breath, realize you've screwed up over the last few years, and actually give out plans that help poor and working people rather than just focusing on national politics like where we started out.
Yeah.
Is instead of focusing on national problems, on these existential issues of humanity, and focusing on the people in Morgan County that still are living with the damage of a tornado from 9 years ago, and the people in Martin County who still don't have clean drinking water, even though it's every Democrat's favorite talking point.
Yeah, and that's been a talking point for a while now.
I mean, how many times this session did you see a Democrat stand up and ask a Republican representative to drink, hey, take a drink of this Martin County water that comes straight out of the pipe. That Lord, you can about set on fire if you catch it on the right day.
Yeah.
And
I'm ashamed to say I'm not certain I've ever even been to Martin County.
I mean, I'll give you the benefit on the doubt. It's way out there and turn left.
Yeah. I've been a lot of places in Kentucky, but there's a lot more places to go. I mean, I go to Wolf County every single weekend. But I always go to the Gorge, so I don't really know much about the actual county. You know?
I will say Wolf County is the most beautiful place in the entire world.
Yeah, you can actually probably say that. I mean, it's.
I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of places around the world. And
yeah, me too.
Wolf County is home and more.
No, the Red River Gorge might actually be the nicest, best place in the world. I mean, it really might. I've seen a lot of places, and
nobody knows that.
Yeah, well, they're
That's
trying to build that
something we
hotel, but I mean, yeah, we have to share, but I've never seen anything like it. And my father and I are fascinated with the archaeological history of the Red River Gorge and the Native Americans that lived out there and what they did, because so many of those rock houses were convinced are not natural. Those were totally built by Native Americans to live in.
Oh, that's what my granny told me growing up, and that's what I've accepted as fact.
What, that they lived up in the rock houses? Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you? They're pretty comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, they stay dry.
They do?
For the most part.
Yeah, I mean...
or back then, anyway, they did.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've really decayed, especially since all the logging. Okay, so anyway. So, the Democratic Party should probably be nicer to Eastern Kentucky, granted. But also, in order to get any votes in Eastern Kentucky, the Democratic Party has essentially, I don't know if it's completely fallen out of favor there as much as it has here, but they have to provide actual, tangible, real-world benefits that people can see if they're going to be trusted again. Mm-hmm. So, what are you going to do?
Well, I think the first big step for the Democrats to do is keep saying the problems that are there, and don't shut up until somebody listens to you. Because I think the Democrats have sort of become complacent, and they said, "Oh, well, we're going to stop listening to the problems of Eastern Kentucky and the coal miners going out of work, and the coal miners in Western Kentucky who aren't working." And they've stopped listening to them and say, "Oh, well, we can bank on Lexington and Louisville and elect a Democrat every now and then, and that's a lot easier on them." So that's what they're going to default to. Because, I mean, even with the governor's race, Andy Beshear won Wolfe County, and
he sure did.
I did as much as I could in Wolfe County.
No, I was working in Powell. Yeah,
along with a lot of great county officials and advocates and Democrats in Wolfe County. We worked our hind ends off to get there, but.
No, we were right next door. We were working with Alex too, and we kicked butt in Powell County, and that's why we held the line in Powell County, and we gave up on Clark County. Just sheer triage. Said, nope, not even going to try. And Clark County did not go for Beshear in any way. Not even close.
And I think that's a testament to what the Democratic Party can do locally in Eastern Kentucky. Because people in my generation, they don't want to, and I say my generation, I guess I'm technically a millennial, so I'm I'm cut off from millennials, so I cling on to that.
Okay.
Well, it's better than being Gen Z.
Really? I like Gen Z.
I teach Gen Z, so they...
I think Gen X and Gen Z think each other are hilarious, and watching the boomers and the millennials fight is sort of funny. I'm glad that I got to stay out of that one, though.
That's a good argument. Maybe I'll start clinging on to Gen Z if they'll take me. But I think there's a lot of the millennial generation that's old enough to run for office now, and instead of taking a lead like national, who's a national that's young, AOC. AOC extremely young and elected, and into Congress, the U.S. Congress. But you see people more in our generation not doing grand moves like that and running for city council, running for magistrate, and running for state rep, stuff like that.
That's smart. That's much smarter.
Because it is smarter, because that's how you get change done on your level for your county. That's how you do good for your people.
Yeah, you don't just elect senators at random. It's a edifice that's constructed from the bottom. Like, you have to build an entire organization statewide to even have a chance at these big offices. People only pay attention to the cherry on the top, but you have to have the entire sundae. Yeah. So yeah, that's good to hear that people, younger people are running for office a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. I'm the vice president of Kentucky Young Democrats right now.
Oh yeah.
And that's one wonderful thing to see is how many young people are taking up that mantle to run for office.
Yeah.
And which one of the more troubling things, and once I get into office, I'm gonna push as hard as I can, is lowering the age to run for office in Kentucky. Because almost every single office in Kentucky, you have to be at least 24. For state rep, you have to be 24 by election day, which I skirt. I'm 23 right now. I'll be 23 in the primary.
Well, technically, a primary is not an election.
Yeah. So election day in November, I'll be 24 by.
So you're Daniel Cameroning your way in. Huh?
Sliding it by the skin of my teeth.
As long as you didn't have to do anything unethical to turn 24, you're ahead of him.
Yeah, we did not. I would say we did not smudge my birth certificate.
I want to see the long form.
But I think that's one thing I really want to push is lowering that age, because I think the only race you can run at 18 is, I believe you can maneuver your way around to run for school board and you can run for mayor. And I think those are the only two offices.
Oh, that's
and city council, which are offices you can do a lot of good in. But I mean, Wolfe County, our county seat is Campton, the only county or the only town in the county. We've got 2 stoplights, 400 people live in Campton.
Yeah,
it's the epicenter of Wolfe County.
Yeah,
and I mean, how much change can you affect?
Yeah, okay, you've got a good point. And like all those like rules that these little all these rules that little county Democratic parties try to set up, where they have to have like equal male and female representations in all these committees, and I'm looking at them and going like, guys, y'all got like 500 people in your whole county. Don't set up rules that you're not going to be able to fill just because one person. I mean, I see your point. If somebody's 18 years old and they live in Vico and they want to be mayor, I say go for it. That's fantastic. I don't know. What do you think the purpose of age restrictions on? I mean, how does that look to you? You don't think there should be any age restrictions on any of these?
Well, I'm not sure, because see, back when you first started voting here in America, you had to be a wealthy landowner, you had to be white, you had to be a man, and you had to be at least, what was the minimum voting age then? I think 25.
Yeah, that does sound right. Yeah.
So now we can.
We could actually check.
If we
there's a copy of the Kentucky Constitution from like
which one is the first question?
No, they'd have the first one. This is by the way, we're doing this interview in the local history room of the Winchester Public Library. We're like looking at like paintings of Daniel Boone and stuff, and
we're trying to find all 4 iterations of the Kentucky Constitution.
Oh my God! Yeah, Masonry in the Bluegrass, 1788-1933. I bet you there's stuff in that book that is not in any other book. I mean,
oh yeah,
you know,
that's the thing. Kentucky history just keeps going and going and going.
It gets a lot weirder than people realize. I love Kentucky. I totally interrupted you.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, so what's the point of age restrictions on different offices?
Now, I can see something of president, senate, things that most of those people that run and get those positions are lawyers and people who have practiced and understand, at least serviceably, how to uphold and maintain the process, and they've had the years of experience. And I would argue that those offices, we probably need some sort of experience gap, because I mean, when we've historically elected presidents with not that much experience, it doesn't go well.
But that's different. Well, actually, but I think president's one of the jobs that you can step into without much experience. I think the smaller ones are much harder. Like I think president is such a weird and wacky position that anybody could theoretically run for president. I would actually want more experience in a senator than I would in a president.
I would agree with that, because the people don't realize that the legislature holds all the power.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can like stack the legislature, that's where your judges get approved. That's in the Senate.
That's a good point.
That's where your laws get made. That's where your executive orders get overturned. That's where you go to war, or where you're supposed to go to war.
Well, Kentucky has not gone to war since 1788. You know, we've been pretty good on that one.
Thank God for Kentucky's pacifists.
Yeah, that's what we're noted for.
But I think these positions, especially with, I would argue that climate crisis is the most impending, which I would say it's the biggest national security threat. I would say it's the biggest threat to poor and working people. I would say it's the biggest threat to minorities. I would say it's the biggest threat to American healthcare. I could make that argument for climate change.
Okay. I mean, probably.
But it is the only thing that will unilaterally affect all of us.
Yeah.
Well, affect about 99% of us.
No, it's just going to kill all the animals. We'll be fine. We'll just have to sit there and live in the gray and rainy world that we made. It's going to be like Blade Runner forever. It's going to, I mean, and nobody was smiling in that movie. They weren't having a good time.
Yeah, it's a dystopia for a reason.
Yeah, but we ourselves will survive. Humanity will certainly survive whatever heck we do to this planet. That'll be our punishment.
But whatever effects come from climate changes, people like me are going to have to deal with that. My generation's going to have to clean up the mess. As lazy as people think millennials are, we're going to be the ones cleaning up this mess.
No, we just don't think you're going to clean it up. Well, don't believe it for a second. Sorry, it's just not. It's not going to happen. The way it's going to get cleaned up is with occasional gigantic technological leaps forward and a lot of complaining that has nothing to do with anything. Yeah. Like say, when the ocean gets filled with too much plastic, it will annoy people to the point where somebody invents a machine that takes plastic out of the ocean. And it's not a good system, and it doesn't work very well. But that's what's going to happen. I like recycling. I recycle. I drive my recycling to Lexington now because they still recycle. But I always knew it was an empty gesture.
That's when I grew up as a kid. The way my parents didn't like me. They didn't like to give me an allowance. They said, if you're going to get money, you need to earn it. So I would walk the roads and pick cans and take that up to the recycling.
Now, see, that is something that I wish that we took more. See, that works in a couple ways because one, it does provide much cleaner streets.
Mm-hmm.
Much cleaner streets. Like you go down to Mexico, where they have a combination of being poor enough to need the money and a fairly good recyclable return that's funded by the government. You will never see an aluminum can on the side of the road in Mexico. When you finish your beverage, you're supposed to just put the can down so that somebody else can come at it and have the 5 pesetas or whatever.
That's money that people are just throwing into the Red River or throwing into some holler and letting it build up.
Well, that's something that I think the government actually can affect. Like, there's most things that I don't think the government can affect. Like the weather, I don't think the government has the capacity to affect the weather.
I would agree with that as well.
Yeah. But I think we can do things like privilege reconstruction over new construction and make recycling worth money.
And I think that's where people running for state rep or state representatives can come into play there, is to make sure we get the problems that are in our communities confronted in an effective manner.
Okay. Sorry.
No, go on.
I keep interrupting you. What does running mean to you? Like, what do you do differently that makes this a run, other than just putting your name in and spending the $500?
Oh, it's just $200.
It's just $200.
It's just $200.
Well, that's awesome.
They let us get away cheap on that.
Which district is it?
97th, House District 97th.
97th District.
Wolf, Morgan, and Johnson.
Yeah, and I think you've got a much better chance. I think you've got a pretty good chance, to be perfectly honest. But okay, so what does running mean? Like, what do? You give speeches?
Not yet. I'm not much on big speeches and grand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the center of attention kind of guy. Where I thrive and what running means to me is going up some holler I haven't been to before, haven't been to in years, sitting down with the family, seeing what's going on, and seeing how I can help them.
So you're door to door.
Yeah. I think you're not going to win an election with nice looking shoes. You need to run through the soles of your shoes to win.
Yeah, people want to meet you. Like, people absolutely want to see you around.
Yeah, and if you're fighting for them, they'll do anything for you. If you show up at their door, you ask for their vote and let them know you're fighting for them to have a little bit more money, to send your kid on the Beta Club trip, or give them $2 in snack money so they can get a water at lunch. And those are the issues people care about. Not all these existential things, which I care about, but all these existential issues that we deal with nationally that don't really apply to Kentucky.
Well, they do apply because the Republicans are so adept at using national issues to push local candidates, and the Democrats aren't aren't as good at that. We aren't. We should be. I wish we were.
Yeah, the Democrats, we do not have the national or state infrastructure to do anything, really. I mean, we're sort of, and I may get in trouble for saying this, but I mean, we're stagnant as a state party. I mean, all we're doing is losing ground because it's. I mean, you don't have people from Eastern Kentucky in there saying, "Hey, we have kids starving and kids who can't pay for lunch, and families who don't have electricity or running water," and they're talking about some issue of something just completely.
Well, no offense to your former employer, not to get you in trouble, but their damn airplane.
I swear, if the Democrats shift in one more person to run for anything,
Yeah.
Kentucky. My head might explode.
Well, I think that the best thing to do for Kentucky Democrats, this is my opinion, obviously, is to run against national Democrats. Like, Kentucky Democrats should actually be angrier at Pelosi than the Republicans are.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. That's one thing I hate about the national Democrats is when I have to go around, or when I go around, I have to say, like, no, I am not a fan of Nancy Pelosi. No, I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton. These people who just funnel money in, they funnel these rich people funnel in money.
And they lose elections that we would have won anyway if they'd stayed out.
And they say these utterly ridiculous things and grandstand and do all this unnecessary stuff, and then that hurts people like me. That hurts the student. That directly hurts the students in my classroom.
Yeah,
because all these national Democrats are grandstanding on these stupid issues, and then you have kids in these districts that are Republican controlled where the Republican Party is actively trying to cut funding to teachers and classrooms.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very hard to argue that Republicans are good for funding schools. I try to be really fair to Republicans as much as possible.
I don't like to lump all Republicans in, but I think from their history over the last few years, it's definitely not been one of a friend of education.
No, one might say there's been an atmosphere of hostility, and it really annoys me because education is right there in the Kentucky Constitution. We have to have an educational system.
Oh yeah, and that was one of the big issues is in the rewriting of the Fourth Constitution. Yeah. It was written pretty much explicitly to reform the education system. And
really?
Yeah, that was one of the main reasons. And I learned that from former representative and former speaker of the Kentucky House, Jody Richards, in my Kentucky politics class in college.
Really? I would love to know more about that. So, tell me more about the Kentucky Constitution.
Oh, man, now you put me on the spot. It's been a while since I've been in college. But
I mean, we can always just find a reference.
I'm sure you know the copies are somewhere.
But no, I'm fascinated by the Kentucky Constitution and that guy, Governor Gable, the guy that got killed.
I always forget about that.
There must have been some crazy stuff going on. Okay, here's things that happened in Kentucky in the late 1860s, right? Everybody came back from the Civil War. You had Hatfields and McCoys. You had the Rowan County War. You had the beginning of the bootleggers. You had the Kentucky meat shower. You had the Harlan County War. I mean, like, people came back from the Civil War ginned up and violent. And that's when the Winchester jail became, as far as I can tell, the Winchester jail became like a big local institution. So anyway, things were going real bad around the time they wrote that Constitution.
Wasn't Gable? Isn't he the only? Because he was assassinated.
Yeah.
Right. And is he the only governor that's been assassinated, or one of the two or three? I think
he's the only governor who's ever been assassinated by his own Secretary of State, which is rude.
It happens. Unfortunately, happens in Kentucky.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a wild story. I would love to know so much more about what happened there.
Yeah. There's so many crazy old stories from back.
Yeah.
I always love reading of the days when senators would just cane each other on the floor.
Yeah. Well, there used to be a lot of violence. Everybody talks about the Sumner caning in 1856, but there used to be a lot of violence. It was a hostile place. Yeah, there were duels. I mean, the reason why, down by Franklin, where the little dip in the border?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Sam Houston would come over here to duel. Huge Sam Houston fan. Oh my God! So anytime I start talking about history, I get distracted by it.
Me too. I teach high school history. I did the same exact.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I teach world history, so I don't get a focus right on Kentucky, but I always weasel it in where I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, world history has depended on Kentucky history at least 3 times. 2 of them bad. Okay, so in between working and tutoring and all the other stuff that you're doing, how much time do you have to spend door to door a week?
Not as much as I wish.
Yeah.
Because like I was telling you before we started, I teach, so I'm at school from about 7 to 5:15 at least every day. Because I coach a team, so we stay after and practice a couple days a week. We have a week where we have a match, and then I also do tutoring the other days that I'm not doing that. So usually at the earliest I get out of school is about 5:15. So as soon as 5:15 hits, I go hit doors or I go make calls to people that I know, see what's going on.
How are you doing with fundraising?
fundraising, I haven't. I haven't started asking people for money yet. I've had a couple. I've had a couple donations, and that's an unfortunate reality of running is you got to ask people for money, and I've always had a hard time asking people for money because my family very much instilled to me that work all you can before you have to ask people for money. But I'm about to start making those phone calls and getting everything bolstered up so I can get signs and stuff out. Because I've had a lot of people ask me for signs. I've had several people ask me where to mail checks to and where to donate to. And
do you even have business cards yet?
Well, I had a few, and then I ran out real quick. So
that's when they give you the check. You use the check to buy the business cards, and then you give them the business cards so they know where to mail the check. It's a good system.
Oh yeah, very effective.
You gotta have business cards. People like you're not even. No, seriously, like people cannot accept the reality of a political figure that did not give them a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. It disappears from their head. It just like runs off like rain.
Which I mean, I kind of like that because it kind of forces the politician to get out and say, hey, I see you. I understand what you're going through. I'm listening to you.
Well, logically speaking, though, like what you're talking about is good old 19th century politics, which worked really well in the 19th century. Yeah. And you will get 19th century vote totals. Yeah. But you've got a district that's got to be the same size as, basically the same size as every other district, right? So how many constituents?
Let me see. I think right around 40,000.
Yeah. You do not have time to knock on 40,000 doors.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know if anybody listening's ever been canvassing, but I canvassed a couple weekends ago in northern Kentucky for a friend running for state house up there who actually won her special election race.
Yeah, very great congratulations to that, by the way. That was magnificent.
And
we needed that.
I got out there and I got to knock so many more doors because
they're closer together.
People are spoiled because you get these little subdivisions. But I'm canvassing out in Wolfe County and Morgan County and Johnson County. I wouldn't trade that place in the world, but it is a hard place to canvass because you've got each holler that you've got to drive 5 minutes up, and there's probably 4 or 5 people in the whole holler.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you can't tell which trailer is abandoned, which one has somebody in it. And you better wear thick shoes because you're going to be walking through puddles, and you better wear thick pants because a dog may try to bite you.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I've had that happen before. I've had a couple dogs get after me, but they usually calm down once they realize I'm there as a friend.
Yeah, Chuck Eddy's got the right idea. Bring dog treats.
Yeah. That is smart.
Chuck Eddy, the proud possessor of the greatest ground game in Kentucky politics at the moment. I think the guy's just addicted to door-to-door state.
Honestly. I mean, that's what we need. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it is. I think so. But also, it's not going to be enough. But it has to be part of it.
That's the thing about our system is you want to do those good things that get out and knock on doors, but then you also have to come to the unfortunate reality that, hey, you've got to call and ask people for money because that's the way it's set up. Mm-hmm. And then you've got to spend that money on stuff, whether that be for good or bad things.
Yeah, you're not winning an election without advertising. It just doesn't occur. That's never happened. I don't know of anybody that's ever won an election without advertising.
Yeah, and I think the thing that the Democrats nationally don't understand is the marketing and advertising that goes into, because the Republicans now they mark their products. They're not people anymore.
Yeah.
They're just products and placeholders for a brand, and that's why we've seen Trump do so well. Yeah. And one thing I will definitely say he has done well is making himself a brand and into something that cannot be taken down.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like Sanders ended up as a brand, but he took the hard way to get there. Yeah. You know, and it's just, I'm just going to say the same thing for 40 years straight.
and that's one thing
it's one way to do it.
We need more case studies on this because Bernie and Trump both. Well, Trump has done an outstanding job his entire life just marketing his last name, and so people know him. Yeah. And Sanders has done a good job of marketing with the same consistent message over so long. And it's hard to take either one of them down. Like Democrats and Republicans both for Donald Trump and for Bernie Sanders. Yeah. I know as many Democrats that support Donald Trump as I do Republicans that support Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And it's just because one of their honesty and the brand that they build around themselves, and which I think they took two very different paths to get to their place, and they have two very different outlooks for the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
But I think in the one similarity between the two is that they have both gone through these journeys of turning themselves into something larger than their person.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair way to look at it. I mean, in a weird way, I appreciate that because I feel like people are so blinded by hatred for, at this point, both of them, that they're not really seeing either of them.
I got so disheartened because I got on Facebook. That was the first disheartening thing.
Yeah.
But I came across this comment,
Yeah.
and I don't like to dip in national politics very much because we've got some big problems here in Kentucky. But
Yeah.
But I saw this comment that was just so irrational. That said, "I'm not voting for Bernie Sanders because he's a communist Muslim," and that just absolutely floored me.
It's like they're
Like,
announcing, I only know 2 words. Here they are.
I only know 2 things that I think are bad. So here they are put together, and that's which I mean I see the same stuff about Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump, CNN and mainstream media will just take Donald Trump sneezed this way and made some hand symbol that could vaguely almost be a dog whistle to like the KKK and time travel to the Nazi party in 1936 or something.
And you know
it's ridiculous.
It's hilarious. He threw bread to ducks wrong. What kind of idiot would throw bread to a duck like that? I mean, come on. Yeah, and I was so appreciative, as somebody who's been saying for a long time that the Democratic Party has serious freaking problems, that they ran Michael Bloomberg. Where we could say, because, I mean, whatever you say about Trump, he says a lot of dog whistle stuff, yes. But he never comes out and says it. Michael Bloomberg's like, sure. Yeah, bang, bang. Is this mic on? Good.
Oh, yeah, that's...
I mean, he did, like, every time they asked him, every time they said stop and frisk is racist, he'd be like, yeah, it's more racist. It should be more racist. Is this microphone on? I can record this. I can put this on my YouTube channel. Like, he's
that's
over the top. And it's really good that we've got this out in the open, and we're like, a lot of the Democratic Party really would pick blue Trump. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The Democrat Party, they don't realize that if the coin was flipped and Trump ran as a Democrat and said pretty similar stuff, I mean, they'd be all behind him too.
Well, I don't think it would have worked because I think there's foundational differences between the liberal and the conservative outlook that are underlying the party. And I think at the end of the day, the Republicans are the largest group of people in America that enjoy being the largest group of people. And they just want to be part of the largest group of people. And so you've got the largest group that wants to hang out together. And when you've got a completely fractured electorate where I would say, I mean, between 30 and 50% of America is not participating in this in any way and will not be.
Oh, yeah.
And cannot be shamed and will not be heard.
They're not going to be guilted into voting.
You
got to get them out.
Yeah, you're not.
They're purpose.
They're playing video games, and they'll be playing video games for the rest of their lives. I mean, if you've got the combination of institutional money, like somebody who's got a trust fund or something like that, and a serious video game habit, you have a null point in society that consumes resources and does not interact in politics in any way. And they appear in the census, and people go like, oh, we just need to get that person to vote. You will never, ever, ever get that person to vote. Or even go outside. You will never get anything out of them. Right, so...
But I think a way you can combat that is and bringing it back to Kentucky specifically, is investing more in the education. Like, I mean, I teach world history at Wolf County High School.
Mm-hmm. Every day.
And 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
Can't imagine.
And basketball games on Saturdays sometimes. But the thing is, we have outdated textbooks. We don't pay teachers enough to be able to give more back to their students.
Yeah.
And we've got, like me, I'm a first year teacher. I stay after school 5 days a week, coach a team, do 3 clubs, and like I get paid $30,000 a year. I don't mind to tell people how much I make because I don't make a lot. I make enough to put food on my table, but I don't make enough to give much money to the baseball team when they need to get stuff done in their field. I don't have enough to give to the students in the Beta Club who are trying to raise money to go to the Beta Club trip because Wolf County is one of the, it's been a while since I looked at, but one of like the 10 poorest counties in the entire country. and one of the lowest per capita incomes in the entire country, like bottom 5, I think.
Wow.
And we have so many passionate teachers who want to give back and who want these kids to be civically engaged, but we don't have the resources, we don't have the standard of living to attract those people with passions, because the thing is, a lot of people who are passionate about politics get drawn in with this big money they can get in Frankfurt and Washington.
Yeah.
If you can get Associated Power and make a ton of money, people sell their souls and go on because they're human and they've got to put food on the table.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
that's why we were talking about our Bloomberg friends. Like, I don't blame my friends for showing from Bloomberg at all.
I mean, if you've got to do something for a paycheck,
yeah,
who's good enough to turn down money?
Not in this county.
Not in my district. We don't get handed money very often, and so when we do, we work our hind ends off for it.
Yeah.
But we've got to fundamentally change, like rewriting constitution level change. Not that specifically, but that sort of passion about fundamentally changing our education system. And
I'd like that. That's hard to imagine happening, but yeah, I'd like that.
And I mean that comes with a price tag, but.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think we're given more in tax exemptions than we have in our general operating budget, we can probably find the money somewhere.
Well, I guess you or I will find out someday what they do in all those closed sessions. I mean, I go to a lot of these meetings, and all I've learned is that these decisions aren't made in these meetings.
No, those decisions are made way in advance.
Yeah, I don't know where they're made.
But they still want to keep people out of the meetings.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. They say, we've already got the decision made, but you ain't going to have to come in.
Well, that's what I love about politics is the absurdity of it. It's like, what are we doing?
It's just
what's this all about?
It's just a play put on for the fool who pays attention.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, there's still the dream that we could do something to help.
Oh yeah,
that's at least in some way. Like my personal hobby horse is trying to get the Winchester jail reformed a little bit. You know, to get them down to at least 100% capacity instead of 190. And
that's one big thing. That's one thing that I think we need to fundamentally take a look at when I get into office. That's going to be up there on the first things to do, because we have Kentucky specifically has one of the highest incarceration rates in the entire world.
Yeah. Yep.
In the entire, not in the U.S., not in North America, not in all these happy-go-lucky Western countries, in the entire world.
Yep.
And a lot of it's for nonviolent crimes and mostly marijuana offenses that are minor offenses.
A huge amount of it's just because they can't pay bail.
Exactly.
I mean, the number of people that are in there because they can't pay bail is astounding.
Yep. And that's a whole nother issue. That's an issue I personally struggle with, because I used to work for the county attorney.
Yeah.
And so I would make recommendations on setting bail for some people, and it was hard because I knew where a lot of these people came from and how hard it was for them to make bail. And so we would do everything we could to help them. But then on the other hand, there is that extreme of people who just don't want to pay. Yeah. And they think that they can just skirt the system. Yeah. And so I don't know where that happy medium is, but I think that the bail system is definitely something we should look at and learn more about and study. But prison reform is something that we need to do yesterday.
I'll go this far on bail though. The purpose of bail is to make sure that they will come back for trial. It's the 21st century. There's nowhere to go. If you were in Kentucky and you've been arrested for anything short of shooting up a Kroger's, or, if you're like a millionaire crimes, I guess, like wired fraud transfer, I don't know, doing an Ocean's 11 at Churchill Downs or something like that, like anything short of that, there's absolutely no reason for bail at all, because these people are coming back. Kentucky has no statute of limitations. There's no place to go. Everybody's got driver's licenses. Everybody's got nationally connected IDs. There's absolutely no reason for any of this.
Well, I would argue that, I've had a lot of people skip out of state on me. I mean, shoot, I haven't worked for the county attorney in going on a year. And there's still people that have active warrants that I've issued.
Sure, yeah.
But
over 5 or 10 years,
But,
and also, honestly, if they just leave and never come back, is it really? I guess it depends on what the crime's for.
Yeah.
So let's say sex criminals. So there we are. So if it's people that we don't really want skipping town anyway, then why are we giving them bail?
Yeah, exactly. I think for violent crimes, I think we can honestly just say, okay, you have this bail, this astronomical bail, or you're staying in. If somebody has committed like some sort of sex crime or murder or something like, I know people are innocent.
But then adding money to that doesn't add. It's like, okay, well, you killed 3 people under the bridge, but if you got $1 million,
we've either got to, I think on that end, we've either got to say, hey, there's no bail at all, and you just come back, or we say, hey, you have to sit here in prison.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are the only two quote unquote fair. I use that term very loosely.
Yeah. I don't see where money should come into it at all. Because that really is just saying, like, okay, rich people get to do it and poor people don't.
Yeah, but and the stuff I did mainly for the county attorney was child support. So I mean, it's nonviolent crimes. I think one of the two offenses in the state of Kentucky that you can commit, or 2 debt offenses that you can get arrested for and have to serve jail time. In Kentucky, and I mean, it's so hard to see people not pay that, and then also see the kids who don't have food on the table, and
that's not going to give the kids any money.
And the only thing that would ever get money into those kids' hands, or the custodial parents' hands, was for us to set a bail, and the person would pay that bail, and that bail money was forfeited to child support. And so that's how I mean, I can think of 10 people that I used to have cases with off the top of my head.
Wait, they paid bail, and then the bail money went to child support?
Yeah, they forfeit that to child support.
So it's like they're making them. So if somebody goes into jail for failure to support, and you set the bail at $2,500, right? Which means they have to pay $250.
Well, we set. So it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But so we usually based it on, depending on the amount, it would be either like 10% of the amount they owed is what we would say. The most common time that we would do that, we would have to put out a bench warrant, because a lot of people just don't show up. So when they say they have a bench warrant with 10% of what they owe in child support, which could be something like $5,000, that people will come in and they'll say, well, I've got $3,000 to pay. Can we lower the bail to that and let me pay you the $3,000? Because that's the only way we get people to pay. And so then that money is held for a long period of time to be cleared by the clerk's office and have the check cleared to make sure it doesn't bounce. And then a few weeks later, it gets the child support. And then and there's so many cases where that's the only way I could get money to these kids from their non-custodial parent. And so that's a way I see the bail system working and doing good things. But
I'm always in awe of a good legal workaround. But yeah, that's using the system correctly, but at the same time, it's also horrifying. I mean, you're in a bad situation, a Sophie's Choice situation, where like neither option is good. So you do what you had to do, and it worked. But enshrining that in law sounds really, really troubling for about 17 different reasons.
Yeah, I think it's a poor standard for us to have, and I hate that it's normalized in the prison industrial complex and the bail culture that we have set up. That it's keeping innocent poor people in jail, and the thing. And rich people can just get out. Like all these people who are charged with these super high crimes and screwing people out of their entire savings, and those guys can post $1 million bail like they're buying a coffee at McDonald's.
Yeah,
and
like they're buying a debate.
Like they're buying a way on a debate stage and trying to disrupt democracy. But I digress.
But yeah, I mean, I know that the millionaire isn't the biggest issue in Clark or in Wolfe County, but. It also doesn't help the economy to have so many people who are working age and probably had jobs before they lost them because they went to jail. That's not good for the economy. I mean,
it's not.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are working minimum wage jobs at McDonald's and Dairy Queen and Save-A-Lot and the gas station and all these people who are trying to work full-time jobs in the few places that have jobs in Eastern Kentucky, and they still can't provide for their family. And that's it's sad that we have people who can spend $250 million to get on a debate stage just for 2 hours of trying to make yourself feel good whenever you've got kids who are starving in Appalachia that nobody's that's not a topic on the National Democrats discussion.
Money doesn't solve everything, but it would sure solve a lot of problems out east of here. It would solve a lot of problems here.
And which I don't think Eastern Kentucky needs a handout. I think Eastern Kentucky just needs a fair shake.
Well, that's the thing, is like letting the people who don't belong in jail in Eastern Kentucky out of jail isn't a handout.
Yeah. We just need those. We just need those fair opportunities to where we have the abilities to succeed. Because, I mean, from the mid 1800s to I'd say a couple decades ago, Eastern Kentucky powered the United States of America.
Yeah.
I mean, without Eastern Kentucky, we wouldn't have the Industrial Revolution. Without Eastern Kentucky providing all that coal, we wouldn't have had the steel to build all the war machines that we needed in World War I and II.
Yeah.
I mean,
the city that never sleeps would have been going to bed pretty early if it wasn't for Kentucky coal. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the wood, all the lumber that from before that. You know, I think that's a huge part of what happened to Kentucky. Is that this state was systematically stripped of resources for about 100 years.
Oh yeah, and I mean I say all this. I know I grew up like coal money paid for my school.
Yeah.
Like I went to college because of coal money. My dad has been a coal miner my entire life.
Yeah.
He works 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. Like, and he's
Is it really as miserable work as people say?
It's nobody writes home about how good coal mining is.
No.
People in Eastern Kentucky mine coal because that's the best paying job.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that my dad had to drive from Wolfe County to Hazard, or Wolfe County to Pikeville, or Wolfe County to Paintsville, or Wolfe County to Prestonsburg every single day.
Really?
Every single day.
God damn.
There was
that's a long ride on windy roads.
Yep. And I mean his routine: wake up at 3:30 in the morning, leave the house by 4, get to work by 5, get home around 6 or 7.
Wow. So you didn't see your dad a lot?
Nope.
Yeah.
And we spent time together whenever we could, but
yeah.
I mean, and I mean that sucks.
Yeah.
But I'm one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
I mean, when I didn't have to worry about whether food was going to be on my table coming back home.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to worry about going to like getting my college education. Like I knew I would get scholarships if I worked hard enough, and I knew my parents would help me out if I was hungry or anything like that. And they were in a position to do so. But I mean, how many people from Wolfe County or Morgan County or Johnson County can tell you that story?
Yeah.
Not many at all.
Yeah.
Definitely not nearly enough that should be able to.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Straight is the way and narrow is the gate, as they say. Like, there's just not many people that can keep their nose to the grindstone 6 days a week for 20, 30 years.
I mean,
yeah.
I've spent about a 5-month period of my life working 7 days a week, like 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. That's especially in the coal mines. I mean that is hard work, and people die.
Yeah, it's dangerous. I mean, is it true that they're working on their knees a lot?
Not as much anymore. Most of the all the mining that my dad has ever done has been strip mining.
Yeah.
So
he's like a front loader operator or something. Or?
Yeah. He started out as a mine mechanic.
Uh-huh.
Then he worked as a foreman for a while, and then he moved up and a few years ago got put in an office, and he's able to work out of an office now, but he's still got to drive an hour and 10 minutes to work and work 12 hours a day. And then on some days he's got to go out and help because they don't have enough people. They're having to lay him off because nobody's buying coal.
Yeah.
It's not that the Democrat Party has said nobody's allowed to buy coal. It's just it's not as economically viable as it used to be, because people like Mike Bloomberg bought up coal mines, sold and screwed a bunch of people out of jobs, and then artificially drove up the price of natural gas.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Democrats put people forward like that, and they say, oh well, if we don't want this candidate who wants people to have who wants people to not die because they're poor. Like they think that a billionaire that screwed Eastern Kentuckians just about as hard as anybody ever has.
Yeah.
And they think, oh well, this is the good guy.
Practically the same thing.
I mean, you go to Harlan.
They're both 78.
I mean, if you know two people in Harlan, or if you ask people in Harlan to name two people that killed coal, they're going to say Barack Obama and Mike Bloomberg.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I had no idea.
That's the thing. People,
and they were saying this before he even ran.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
I mean, and he was just another in the line, because all these people who come and screw Eastern Kentucky are these national people that are buying these politicians. They're all those profiteers that came down starting in the Industrial Revolution with those robber barons.
Yeah.
They came down, bought up land in
the
Eastern.
broad form land deed guys, right? Yeah, okay, yeah.
And they came down, bought up all these mountains in Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia, and they just decided, well, we're going to mine this coal, we're not going to pay you any serviceable amount for it, so sorry about it, we're going to, kill your home and then leave in the 70s whenever it started to get a little shaky. We're going to screw you all over and sell you what little bit you've got left at an increased rate.
Enjoy your
we're out.
Terminally poisoned groundwater.
Exactly.
Later.
That's the thing. We had a bunch of people come from out of state to just buy up this land, screw us over, and they left. And here we are dealing with it. And the Democratic Party, to be as PG as possible, they don't have the gumption to say, hey, these are the people that screwed you. We're not those people. We're fine for you. Until they can say something like that, then they're not going to win.
I mean, when they actually put the person who did it on stage, it's hard to say they're not with him. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I don't know.
That is, I mean, that's fascinating. I had never known that Michael Bloomberg was known anywhere outside of New York City. I'd always been looking at everything from the New York City point of view, where it's just like...
At least the people I've talked to down that way, they don't like it.
Well, no. I wasn't expecting that, but I didn't know that it was personal. I had no idea that he was involved in coal.
Yeah, and I may have my wires crossed, but I would just about bet my last dollar.
Well, the nice thing about the future is when you're wrong, somebody's always happy to correct you. Like, do you know this? Did McGrath... Michael Frazier told me this a couple weeks ago, and I haven't looked it up yet. But did you know if McGrath actually funded legislature candidates last year?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I knew, because...
I knew that she didn't give any money to any of the state candidates, and so I just assumed that meant she was out entirely.
That whole campaign was awful sketchy.
What?
I think there was at one point where the Republican Party was suing them over some financial misdoings on her campaign. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think I'm under non-disclosure. I mean, if I'm violating it, I mean, y'all know my address. It's
yeah. No, I think they made it really clear today, because did you hear that Mike Breuer came out in favor of UBI?
I did. I saw that today.
Yeah.
And
do you have an opinion on the UBI, by the way?
Well, I do, and I like I said, I try to stay out of national politics, but I think so I don't know if you know that my undergrad degree is in economics. Mm-hmm. So I studied economics for 4 years. Well, probably about 3, because I changed my major a couple times. About for 3 years at Western, and I had my undergrad degree in economics.
I didn't know that.
And I had minors in business administration and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So I spent all my time in school learning, like taking classes like poverty and discrimination.
Yeah.
And all these entrepreneurship classes on how to build small local business and start from nothing. And I think UBI is definitely something that we need to consider. I don't know if it's a catch-all, and as of right now, I don't think it's a catch-all to solve all these problems like Yang. That was the only reason I started to look into Yang, was because of his support for UBI, and I think with the studies and research and theory and everything works out, I think UBI has a whole lot better chance at helping out poor people than trickle-down economics.
Yeah, hold on. So you think giving money to people will get them money better than giving money to other people and hoping that they will just spend it?
That was a whole lot of hoops to jump through, but...
No, I think I agree. Yeah,
I think
like
one thing about
Yeah.
one thing unique about America. And
Yeah.
I mean, you can maybe summarize the entire West in this, but one thing you can say is money attracts money here. If
Yeah.
you've got money, money's going to come to you.
Yes. Working in the horse
and
industry,
if-
I have a new respect for the power of institutional money. I mean, it is real.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, people talking about old money for a reason.
Yeah, it's not a joke. Like,
No.
when I was working in the horse industry, that's when I realized nothing in this world happens unless a rich person says it's okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of these people could afford to buy your family and ship you to the moon and back. And,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've got enough money to support cousins and grand cousins for generations. And I mean, at this point, money can get so big and have its own managers that some of these trust funds take on their own gravity. Somebody was talking about how these mutual funds and stuff like that, they're being run by computers, right? They're using a lot of algorithms and really advanced business processing technology to make all these economic decisions. And they were like, actually, artificial intelligence is developing in the economic sector.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's true.
That's the thing, and I'm gonna use that to jump off into one of my main points.
Please do.
Is that we are going through an industrial revolution right now with all of the new technology we have with the internet, AI, and automation.
Yeah,
and I think that's one thing that the UBI can help subsidize, because, I mean, like you just said, machine learning is it's putting like economists and accountants and all these people who've been paid to do this work, it's putting them out of a job because a computer can do the work faster and more accurately.
Yeah, there's like legal AIs that are coming out now.
And exactly, like AIs can do simple work for attorneys. Like a lot of these 4-year college degrees, or these 3-year, 4-year professional degrees that we've been sort of shoved down our throats to go and get, are going to be obsolete in 5 years.
Yeah,
I don't think that is an overstatement whatsoever. And we have got to get these kids into technical schools and get them into practical education where they can make effective, immediate change in their communities. Mm-hmm. I have been trying to get work done on my house for, what month is it? Since last summer. Yeah. And it's so hard to find a person who can come and do that work. Yeah. And that's a problem in Eastern Kentucky. That's a problem in just about everywhere.
Well, it's very clear here because it happened right at the same time. The last generation that was taught the trades in school was the generation that got hit really hard by bills. And those guys are just, people that worked in construction in Kentucky were. It's funny that we call it the opioid epidemic now, but like it really was like a disease that just went through and wiped them out. It's just hard to get construction done in Kentucky anymore.
And I mean, we don't have there's one of my neighbors, grew up with him, went to church with him my whole life, love him to death, and he went to welding school. Yeah. And I went to Western, and I can tell you right now, he is extremely happy, making a whole lot better money than me. Yeah. And he went to school for a year and got his certificate. Yeah. And he's good. Like, he's living the life that he wants to live. He's making good money doing it. Yeah. And I mean, I'm living the life I want to live and doing that. And I can tell you that welding was definitely not my route. Yeah. But I knew teaching was. And
well, I really respect that, and I think teachers need to get paid a whole lot better because it'll get people to do it.
Yeah, and we've got my keynote. The one thing that in the reality that I do not win this election, the one thing that I want to stick with people is that we need to guarantee free community and technical college to every single high school graduate in the state of Kentucky. The state of Tennessee.
Oh, I'm looking at the library and I think it's cool. Okay, yeah, anyway.
The state of Tennessee does this program and scholarship called the Tennessee Promise. So it's a last dollar in system where you get all these scholarship monies to go to college, and then whatever is not covered by your scholarships, the government steps in and subsidizes that. The state of Kentucky could do it for less than $40 million a year to send kids to technical school for 2 years and get them a degree, whether that be an associate's degree to go on to a 4-year college, whether that be to get an associate's degree to jump right into a profession, or to go to technical school and do those
for $40 million.
$40 million a year. That's the less than $40 million a year. That's the last estimate I saw.
That's a heck of
and that's if you do
yeah.
a last dollar in system. And when you think we give $13 billion in tax exemptions to
Mm-hmm.
rich people that don't even step foot in this state, that
Yeah.
just have their
if we get 10%
address
of Brady's, if we get 10% of what we gave Brady,
exactly
refunded, and then we don't even pollute the river. I mean, that's a good deal all around.
And that's what we need to do. And that's what will help Johnson County. That's what will help Morgan. That's what will help Wolf. That's what's going to help Eastern Kentucky and Western Kentucky.
Okay. Well, I really want to concentrate on what you can do or what you think you can do to win. But I want to mention this first is that so Mike Breuer came out in favor of UBI today, and Charles Booker came out in favor of UBI a month ago. And they're really, the other candidates are not really running in any appreciable sense. Some of them are the ones I know are all very nice people, but the major candidates are Breuer, Booker, and McGrath. Mm-hmm. And Breuer and Booker, the two candidates, Democratic candidates, who are actually from Kentucky, that actually focused on Kentucky, are calling for UBI. Mm-hmm. Whereas Amy McGrath is sitting on a stool in front of her airplane telling us that she gets health care, but we don't.
Yeah.
So they spent $10 million. They gave this woman $10 million to fly over here and stop us from winning this election when this is clearly what Kentucky Democrats actually want.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm okay with Charles Booker or Mike Breuer, somebody who has lived in the poorest parts of Louisville, somebody who farms in South Central Kentucky, people who live here, raise their families here, and make their living here.
Yeah.
If they want to come out and support ideas that are liberal or these national ideas, and they lose an election, I'm okay with that. At least they got up and said their piece.
Yeah.
Well, but shipping in candidates from out of state who sound like they were just created to. Well, that's a bit unhinged for me to say, but
no,
it sounds like they were created by a National Democrat focus group to say, "Hey, what do you think those rednecks in Kentucky want?"
Yeah.
And it's offensive.
What do they like in Kentucky? I don't know. The military and airplanes. Sure.
Well, they definitely haven't been to Kentucky.
Yeah.
Which I will say, the aeronautical industry would like the second.
Yeah, no. Aerospace is a huge industry in Kentucky, but nobody knows that, and Kentuckians don't really care as much as they should. And also, yes, Kentucky's a very military state. But if there's one thing the military loves, it's criticizing the military. And I'm from a military family. I know a huge number of people in the military. We got a lot to say. None of them like McGrath. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I know you worked on her campaign, so I don't want to insult her too much. But
no, that was that. I appreciate the opportunity that was given to me with that, but I fundamentally disagree with a lot of what went on in the campaign, what goes on in the party, and what is wrong with some candidates.
Yeah, it really. Over and over again while I was canvassing and campaigning for people last year, I would meet people who didn't even know there were any other Democrats besides Bernie Sanders. Like, they didn't care that anybody else was running. They thought that he was either going to be Bernie Sanders or somebody who stole it from Bernie Sanders. And I think it's real. I think that Kentucky, maybe not all of Kentucky, maybe not enough of Kentucky, maybe some percentage of Kentucky, but some large chunk of Kentucky is really listening and really cares and really agrees. And Booker and Breuer are doing everything they can to win. And they're listening to everybody. And I truly think that if both these guys came on their own to the conclusion that Kentucky Democrats want UBI, and we've got this multi-million-dollar candidate who was sent here to stop us from getting it, I think that really sums up a lot. And my friends are just like, well, you elect McConnell. You've got to expect people to think about this. Like, this is how we elect McConnell.
Yeah.
If
it's not worked in the last 30 years, it's not going to work now.
Yeah.
And I can tell you with great confidence that if Charles Booker or Mike Breuer walk into a Republican household in Morgan County, for example, that they will welcome him with open arms. But if you send Amy McGrath to go in there and lie to him, they're not going to do that.
No. And I will say this: no, everybody's making it a little bit more complicated than it is because they're looking for like specific things that she did. But what happened is everybody gave her a chance. Mm-hmm. Everybody gave her a chance to act interested. Everybody gave her a chance to be around.
And they threw it away.
And she completely threw it away. Not to criticize Miss McGrath.
But yeah, I definitely am much more of a fan of any Democrat instead of Mitch McConnell. I do not mind saying that whatsoever. That's on that one. Mitch McConnell has done too much to hurt this state.